everyone, welcome to the Deck Dojo. Here on KC Doge Gaming, I'm Killer Cactus. And today we're going to look at building a deck with Fiona Mercy Wind. I threw a vote up on Discord as to the decks that I wanted to build to see who everyone wanted to take a look at. And Fiona won. So we're going to go through my build for her and kind of what was going through my head as I built this deck. And just talk about what we think makes Fiona different and how she can succeed. She's a bit underrepresented, I think. And a lot of people are anxious, I think, to see how she does. So here we go. I'm going to start with... we're going to start by taking a look at Fiona now. If you're just getting into deck building, I do suggest checking out Chaos Theory's video on deck building. He gives a really nice outline there on kind of the steps to go through to build a deck. I think it's a great watch if you're just learning how to build decks. I've built a lot of them. I've been doing it for a long time, and I'm decent at Ashes, but deck building is my favorite part of the game, and I love to build decks in all card games. So I kind of get into this part of it. When you watch this video, one thing he says is to choose a starting point, right? We're going to start with a Phoenixborn. I do think in Ashes, a lot of times it's beneficial to pick a first 5 and then find a Phoenixborn who fits that first 5, since the first round is so critical. But I want to build Fiona here, so we're going to start with her and talk about a couple first 5s that I think make a lot of sense for Fiona. So before we take a look, I'm going to grab her signature card here, Mind Maze, and throw a few in the deck so that we can take a look at both of them. So first, Fiona, 6 battlefield, 5 spellboard. Pretty strong. 6 battlefield is average, 5 spellboard is the best you can have. 15 life is the lowest you can have. So she's paying some life points here to have a 5 spellboard and to have her ability and her unique card. So we have, if we're going to use her correctly, I think we have to take advantage, right, of those 3 things. Her large spellboard, her ability, and her unique card. Or at least some of that, right? That's what's going to set her apart from the field. Let's talk about the ability first, because that's really kind of where I looked at to find a deck to work with Fiona. Ingenuity. Right, side action exhaust, discard a card. So no dice spend here on this ability, which is, and there's a few Phoenixborn that don't have to spend dice on their abilities, and I think it's very strong to be able to, do something every round that doesn't cost any dice. So she can draw 1 card or remove an exhaustion token from a ready spell, and so she's got flexibility, and I think that's going to be a theme with Fiona that we're going to kind of want to take advantage of. Is how flexible she can be. And I had that in mind as I was building this deck. I wanted it to be able to pivot at least one way, maybe a couple ways. And you see it also a bit in her signature card, Mind Maze. It's an alteration spell for 1 basic and a main action. It basically takes a unit out of the battlefield for a bit. It can't attack, block, or guard. So it's just dead, sitting, filling up a battlefield spot. Now the opponent can get rid of it by taking their whole turn, spending a basic, and discarding a card to do that. So really all they lose over what you paid to play Mind Maze is a side action, right? Because you paid a basic, you paid a main action, and you paid a card to Mind Maze this unit. If they can pay that same cost plus a side action back, then they get the unit back. But if they don't, the unit gains the ability lost and is discarded at the end of the round. So that unit is gone. And note it's discarded, not destroyed, so it doesn't trigger any on-destroy effects, right? You can't play Sleeping Widows. As Matt Bowers pointed out in the Discord yesterday, the Rising Horde doesn't get its Fallen. Any on-destroy effects won't work, so that's an advantage to playing Mind Maze. Now, since it makes them discard a card, there's a little bit of a mill component here with Mind Maze. That's what kind of makes it flexible. It seems like it could help a mill plan, maybe a little bit, if they're actually going to remove the Mind Maze from the unit. And if they don't, you just get rid of the unit. Obviously, as we know about 3-Eyed Owl, anything that has a discard cost is going to be really strong in round 1. because you're going to force, potentially force the player to discard one of their first 5 cards that they chose, unless they have a way to draw cards or recur something. So, a decent unique. I don't think it's excellent, but it's definitely not bad, and we can make some use of it. So, that's what Fiona brings to the table. Now, what I thought, like I said, I really looked at ingenuity, right? And I said, being able to remove an exhaustion token from a ready spell seems like a really strong ability. The first thing that comes to mind is summon books, right? If you could summon 2 Frostback Bears in a round, that seems good. If you can summon, 2 Butterfly Monks, 2 Salamander Monks, 2, any solid good conjuration, get 2 of, seems like good value. But then when you stop and think about it, it's like, okay, I still have to spend the 2 extra dice to summon that second bear. Right, where I could spend that 2 extra dice on some other card on my spell board, and I have 5 spell board to fill up. Or spend 2 dice on something on my hand. Right, so as long, you only have 10 dice in this game, you can't get any more. So as long as you're spending your 10 dice profitably in a round, I don't know that removing an exhaustion token from a summon book is a great use of ingenuity, because we're still only going to spend 10 dice no matter what we spend it on. Maybe that bear is marginally better than a winged lioness or something else you could spend 2 dice on, but only marginally better, right? I don't think that gets you the bang for your buck that we want out of ingenuity. Should we use the draw 1 card? I mean, discard a card to draw a card. I'm not a huge fan of that. Card drawing is usually not that great in this game. I suppose if we have a card we can't use, and maybe we draw into something we can, that's helpful. But I didn't want to go into looking at, stuff to fix the top of the deck to do that. I don't think that's going to be beneficial either. What I think might be, though, is trying to find a ready spell that has utility. So maybe not a summon book, but some ready spell with utility that we can activate twice around, and maybe for free, because there are ready spells that will activate for free that we can get a lot of value out of. So I looked at stuff like Abundance. We already talked about how Mind Maze kind of has a mill plan. Maybe Abundance would be good, I thought, but then, when you look at Mind Maze, it kind of clashes with it, because we're giving the opponent extra cards to use to discard to Mind Maze. So I jumped off of that. Going down through here, I mean, something like Chant of Revenge is interesting if we had a lot of allies. Empower is kind of interesting if you can focus it and hit some big removal twice in 1 turn, but that takes a lot of work to build up. I mean, something like Guilt Link or Hypnotize, maybe. Magic Siphon might be a solid mill plan if we wanted to go that route. And I considered Sacred Ground as well. I thought, maybe if you ran a bunch of Nature's Wrath and some other stuff that damaged our own guys, if we could get a couple uses out of Sacred Ground between that and swinging, maybe that would be good. But where I fell out, and where I think we can get a lot of value out of Fiona's ability, is Strengthen. Right, so a 2 die cost up front, it's always felt a little bit steep to me to put out, right? But I'll give Just Cam a shout out, because he loves Strengthen, and I played a few games with him and really felt the value of this card. It hurts to pay those 2 dice in round 1, but I mean, there's a pretty clear 1 die equals 1 damage kind of rule in Ashes, right? You look at the Nature Power die that spend 1 die to deal 1 damage. The Divine Power die does something similar, right? Spend a die to increase the unit's attack value by 1. Anchor Knot, summon it, do a damage, and get a body. That's really good value, which is why Anchor Knot's a good card. Why Aridel's Water Blast is so strong, right? Spend 1 die to do 2 damage. Odette can do 2 damage for free, also really strong. That's why you see a lot of Aridel and Odette. But Strengthen here, right? So the first time we use it, we're going to add 2 to a unit's attack value. So we're doing double what the Divine Power does. Although Divine Power lasts the round, this is going to last a turn. But we're going to attack right away, so we're going to get that value. When you think about it that way, it kind of pays for itself right away the first time you use it. And then think with Fiona, we can use it twice in round 1 if we want. We have to discard a card, but we can talk about some ways to make that not a big deal. And then every other round, if we getting double use out of Strengthen every round, I think could provide quite a bit of value and give us the ability to spend a little bit of dice instead of a lot of dice on some units that can threaten or get rid of stuff that the opponent has spent more dice to play. And we're not going to spend any dice from our ability on that. We're not going to spend any dice on strengthen after the 2 we play. So it's just all profit from there. And I really like the idea of that. So that was my starting point, right? Fiona with strengthen, abusing it as best I can with ingenuity. So when I throw strengthen in, that puts me in ceremonial and nature right away. So obviously nature is a great magic to be in, right? It's one of the best. Ceremonial is great as well. But the kind of the problem with ceremonial is that there's not a lot of great ready spells for ceremonial. I mean, Chant of Revenge is pretty good if we're going to have a lot of allies. But when you have a big spell board, we're probably going to play a lot of our units off of the spell board, right, off of ready spells. And not a lot of those in ceremonial. So I'm kind of thinking I want to be in ceremonial for strengthen. I'll put some other ceremonial cards in the deck, but I'm probably not going to go very deep there. And then we start thinking about first fives, right? Strengthen's going to be in my first 5. I'm only going to play 1. I want it on the board the whole game so I can get the maximum value out of it. The kind of traditional line of thinking in first 5s for Fiona involves Three-Eyed Owl, right? Because we have Mind Maze, which threatens a discard, and we can put Three-Eyed Owl out to threaten another discard. So discarding 2 cards is really, really strong in the first 5 and difficult for the opponent to deal with. A lot of times they'll have a plan to get around 1 owl. But owl and Mind Maze, that's tough. I mean, Fiona, with her ability, could theoretically go double owl and Mind Maze. And that's really difficult to deal with. I think that's kind of slow in the first 5. I don't know that I want to give up that kind of tempo in the first round. Assuming if they're playing something like Changing Winds or Abundance or Ceremonial Dice to Recur. I mean, maybe something that can get rid of the owls. I'm not real confident that I'm going to get double owl and Mind Maze off every round, right? And get the max benefit out of that. But I am going to run Three-Eyed Owl. I think it's too good not to have this option, the first 5 owl and Mind Maze, and really put that pressure on the opponent. So that puts me in charm. Right, and then I want to round out my spell board with some solid units. I've got 6 battlefield. I mean, that's pretty strong. I know I only have 15 life, and you've seen Cole play. Cole plays really fast, and a lot of talk in the Discord yesterday about him having the tools to play for 15 life, and he does. I think Fiona's going to have to go pretty quick too. Because not only does she only have 15 life, but she's kind of milling herself by using that discard part of the ability. So I think she's got to play pretty quick. I want some strong, or some good units that are going to either play into that or help prolong the game. So looking at that, I mean, Frostback Bear, I'm already in nature. It's really hard not to run Frostback Bear. So I'm thinking about that. Butterfly Monk is another one that is in nature. It will help Fiona's low life total. So I'm thinking hard on that. And then Salamander Monk is really good with Strengthen because there's almost always a target for it. Even if you lose the Monk, the Spirit can come out and use Strengthen as well. So my head's kind of around those 3. I really kind of wanted a 2-1 unit for 1 die. I did a lot of thinking on Ancestor Spirit. And for 1 sympathy, 2-1. Shadow Spirit as well. I'm not an illusion, and I don't know that I want to go into illusion here. But getting a unit from 2 to 4 with Strengthen, it feels really good to try and trade up into a Knight for just a 1-die attacker. The problem is, though, when I started thinking about first 5s, I need more dice, right, in the first 5. I want to get that spell board developed because I want to use the 5 spell board of Fiona and get value out of that. But I need more dice, right, to do that. So it was hard to just run a few summon books that were all just 1 cost. So when I started thinking first 5s, I said, okay, I want Strengthen, right? I also want a way to bounce the card. I want to be able to use Fiona's ability and not have that impact my first 5. I don't know that I want to spend extra dice to draw cards. I want to play quickly, so I want to keep that tempo up. I don't want to just, spend a die to draw if I don't have to. In some situations, right? Maybe there are situations where I'm okay doing that. But I said, okay, if I can go So what if I fill my first 5 with summon books to get that spellboard developed? Right? I go Frostback Bear, I go Butterfly Monk, and I go Salamander Monk. Right? Those were the 3 that I first thought of. Those are the 3 I think have the best synergy here with what I want to do. That does put me in sympathy, and I'm okay with that. There's a lot of good sympathy cards we can play. So if I start this, I start Strengthen and the 3 books, these 3 books. I mean, if I start the Owl as well, I mean, that's only 6 dice. Or, well, I'm sorry. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's 8 dice. I could do that. I could have, I can use 2 die powers, maybe the sympathy power to draw a card, so I have something to discard to Fiona's ability, and then maybe a nature ping. I mean, that's always an option. But I said, okay, what if I start 4 of these 5 ready spells, and then take a look at Essence Druid? Right? Because Essence Druid will allow me to use Fiona's ability to pitch one of those ready spells in my hand, and just pick it right back up, and still have it. So I don't lose out on anything, right, turn 1 by using Fiona's ability. So I really like that, and I like that Essence Druid, for 3 dice gets a body on the board that's really tough for the opponent to deal with. Protecting that 15 life value a little bit that Fiona has. So I like Essence Druid. I'm going to throw 3 in here. Because, again, even after the first round, the ability to pick a card back up out of my discard pile, and that I maybe threw away Fiona's ability, if I have a couple of extra ready spells, might be helpful. So I'm going to start with 3 there. And that gives me a nice first 5 here. If I want to ignore the Owl Mind Maze combo, I have that option to go Strengthen, Butterfly, Frostback Bear, Salamander Monk, Essence Druid. That's 10 dice, and will allow me to activate Ingenuity and get a second use out of Strengthen. So I think that's a pretty cool first 5 to get some tempo on the opponent, right? If if you're not expecting an Owl or something disruptive, and even if you are, I mean, you can still just discard a ready spell, pick it back up with Essence Druid, and just not use your ability round 1. I think that's a pretty good plan against Owl, honestly. But I also, I don't want to ignore this first 5. The 3-eyed Owl Mind Maze first 5, I think, could still be very powerful. So we're gonna keep our eyes on that. If we could go Owl, Mind Maze, Druid, that's 5 dice. Frostback Bear would get us to 8, and then we could run Strengthen to get to 10. That's a possible first 5. I need at least 2 Charm dice for that, though. I don't know how deep I want to go into Charm here, but to have that first 5 available, we would need at least 2 Charm. And we're going to need, for either of these first 5, we're going to need 2, 3, 4 Nature. If I want to start Frostback Bear, Butterfly, and Strengthen, I need 4 Nature. So I'm going to take that up to 4 already, knowing I'm probably going to go pretty deep in Nature. I got 1 Sympathy for my Salamander Monk. If I want to start Monk and Essence Druid, though, I need at least 2. So my dice pool's kind of already filling up. I'm up to 9 dice right now, so I doubt I'm going into Divine or Illusion. And we're going to see what else we want to fill this deck out with. So those are kind of my first... I think with those, I have a few good first 5 options here. And I'm pretty happy with that. So I'm going to start looking at, kind of the rest of the deck. Like I said, I want this deck to be flexible. I have Owl, I have Mind Maze, both of which are, causing the opponent to want to discard cards. So a mill pivot seems pretty natural here, right? I don't know that we're always going to be starting all 5 of these ready spells. So with that in mind, I went to Magic Siphon. I think this deck, at least, with Butterfly Monk's a power die, Essence Druid is a power die. When I add some more cards, you're going to see some more power die costs. So I went 3 Magic Siphon, saying, okay, I'm probably not going to first 5 this because, again, I don't want to give up the tempo with Fiona's low life. But it wouldn't be a bad card to draw into. It'll give me a mill pivot if I need it. And again, with the Essence Druids, it's kind of always a card I can pitch and then play a Druid and take it back to kind of minimize the impact of Fiona's ability a little bit. So 3 Magic Siphon I thought sounded like a good idea to give me a good pivot there. And that's really all I think we need mill-wise. I mean, we have Owl and Mind Maze. Magic Siphon, if a game does end up going long, Butterfly Monk can help us play a long game too. Maybe that's all we need. But the more natural pivot, I think, at least for me, but for this deck, because the life is so low, is kind of a pivot to burn after a dominant round one. And I think this deck has the potential to dominate round one, either between the 3-Eyed Owl Mind Maze stuff, disrupting the opponent, or just multiple activations of Strengthen can really put pressure on a player that has, trying to develop a couple of big units on the board. So a pivot to burn, I think, makes sense. I'm pretty deep in nature, so I'm pretty comfortable throwing in 3 Molten Gold. The best burn spell there is. So I went straight there, and I'm already in Sympathy and Charm. So Sympathy Pain seems like a pretty good add as well. So in my reaction spells here, I'm going to grab 3 Sympathy Pain also. And being in Ceremonial in nature, it's kind of almost criminal to not run Fester. So even if that's the only Ceremonial card I have, like I said, I'm not going to go deep into it because I want to focus on the spell board, right? I want to use that 5 spell board. But you can, Fester only costs 1 Ceremonial power die. I can throw that in here and get good use out of this Ceremonial die between that and recurring stuff like Essence Druid back to my hand. So I'm perfectly happy with just 3 Fester. I considered Final Cry, but I think I'd have to go a little deeper into Ceremonial for that, and maybe if we have room we can, but I'm going to skip it for right now. I think Molten Gold and Sympathy Pain is decent for burn pivot. Now, I also like to have some AoE. I don't like to play decks without at least a little bit of AoE removal. Only 6 battlefields. Somebody can go a little wide on me. And looking at my unit configuration here, right, Nature's Wrath looks pretty good because I've got Owl, Druid, and Bear, all which have extra life. Salamander Monk is going to leave a body behind, and Butterfly Monk's going to heal me when it dies. So, not terrible effects of, getting hit by Nature's Wrath. So, since I'm in color for it, I'm going to grab it for 2. I'm not in Divine or Illusion, so it's really the only AoE I have available to me. Unless I want to play Crimson Bomber, but again, I'm not deep in Ceremonial yet. So, I'm going to grab Nature's Wrath. I think that's okay. And from there now, looking at regular removal, right? I have Fester, that's pretty good. Molten Gold in a pinch, but I'd rather hit the Phoenixborn with that because I want to, again, keep the game moving quickly. Strengthen into Salamander Monk and Bear and stuff can kind of act as pseudo removal, but I wouldn't mind having some more. If I'm going to run some Essence Druids, I think River Scald can be pretty good here. Again, it's hard to play in Sympathy and not run River Scald. I've got some space left in my deck. I can go to 3 Sympathy and grab a couple Scalds here. Let's get in my allies. River Scald is just so good that it's really hard if you're in Sympathy not to play the card. Right? Draw a card, good for Fiona to fuel her ability, and also, with some removal. So I like River Scald here a lot. Now, looking at the deck, I'm 27 cards in. I've only got 1 3-cost card to use with River Scald, and I don't have anything else in Charm right now other than Essence Druid and Owl. I'm kind of thinking I only need 1 Charm to run those, unless I want some other stuff. Now, Redirect is a card I'm considering. Again, low life total. Redirect is really good to help out with that. I ended up not including that in the first draft of this deck. I'm still thinking about going back and putting it in, though. So what I did is I went down to 1 Charm, up to 4 Sympathy, and because I wanted to make sure I can play these River Scalds and my Monk still, and still have dice left over for Sympathy, Pain, and other stuff. But if I'm going to go that deep into Sympathy, I really like Shared Sorrow. I think that's a great card. It can help with removal, and also with, kind of my burn plan, my burn backup plan, right? If I can get back into a Molten Gold. I've got River Scalds in the deck, so I can always Ceremonial, bounce a River Scald back, and then Shared Sorrow. discard the skull, do 2 damage or something, and then pick a molten gold back up to go back to face with. I like that. I think it serves kind of a dual purpose. So I can grab 2 Shared Sorrow to kind of boost up my removal a bit. And now that I've Scald and Shared Sorrow, I really want some more 3 damage cards just to kind of bring that pain. And going back here, when I look at the 3-Eyed Owl Mind Maze first 5 I talked about now, if I'm only going to run 1 Charm, I can't get the Essence Druid out together with that. Right, so I want another unit. Plus, like, you know, I think it's good to have just another big ally in here anyway to kind of threaten. I'm in Nature. I'm in Sympathy. I mean, I'm in Ceremonial. I could go Hammer Knight, but I can't play that in the first 5 with Strengthen with only 1 Ceremonial unless I want to go deeper. But I kind of like Huntmaster here. It gets 2 bodies out, and also brings those status tokens with it to boost up attack. So, you know, it kind of goes deeper into the, you know, into the Strengthen plan where we're going to get big attacks out of small units. So I kind of like that. And I threw 3 Huntmaster in here. Now that gives me the ability, right, to do a first 5, something like Owl, Mind Maze, Huntmaster. That's 5 dice. Strengthen to get that on the board because I want that. That's 7. And then one of the 2 Monk books would put me at 8. Or even the Frostback Bear is all 10 and I can double activate Strengthen. But if I do the Butterfly Monk or the Salamander Monk, that's only 8. I can Sympathy Power to draw a card to use with Fiona's ability. And then I have the flexibility with a die left over to either summon another Monk after that ability to get another body out there, or hit Strengthen again and use another die power. So I kind of like that option as a first 5 as well. So I ended up with the Huntmasters in here. And looking at the deck now, I'm up to 32 cards. And this is common for me. I oftentimes will go over, right? Just trying to get everything in the deck I want to get in. And then kind of go back and figure out what to cut. I'm not the guy that's going to say, okay, I'm at 27, I only have 3 more cards. Right? Let's get, you know, don't limit yourself by that. Go through and try and figure out everything you want in a deck to kind of work with your plan, and then cut from there. So looking through here, I kind of said, do I need 3 of both Druid and Huntmaster? Probably not. I've only got the 1 Charm die, so I'm going to go down to 2 Druid and leave the Huntmasters in. And with 1 more card still to cut, I thought about a lot of these, right? Where I came back to was, I don't know how great Mind Maze is after round 1, right? I think it's great round 1. If you want to use that for a first 5, I think that's excellent. After that, I'm not so sure. I mean, I don't know how hard it really is to spend a basic and discard a card to get rid of it in round 2, 3, or 4. Obviously, if you have the tempo to wait till the end of the round when they're out of either cards or dice, I think Mind Maze is great. Spend a basic, get it out there, especially if you can hit a unit with it before they've attacked for the round. Takes them out completely from that round, doesn't allow them to replace the battlefield slot, and they're gone at the end. So that's amazing value if you can do it. I don't want to take that play completely away from us, but I'm also not like super upset if I play a Mind Maze round 1 and never see another one. Or even if I don't play Mind Maze round 1 and don't draw into it, it's not the end of the world. So I ended up cutting Mind Maze to 2. And this was my first draft of the deck. All right, 4 Nature, 4 Sympathy, 1 Ceremonial, 1 Charm. And this list here. 3 Magic Siphon to draw into. The 4 Summon books, Butterfly Monk, Bear, Monk, Salamander Monk, and Owl, and the Strengthen. Planning, I'm probably only going to have 3 of these books out at any given time. But I have the ability to have them all if I want them all. The 2 Druids, 3 Huntmaster, 2 Scald, 2 Mind Maze, and then 3 Fester, the Molten Golds, 2 Nature Wrath, 2 Shared Sorrow, 3 Sympathy Pain. So that's where I've ended up. Looking at the list, I really liked it. I liked that I had, you know, capability for a strong round 1, a few different options to do that, based on what I think my opponent is bringing or what they're planning on me bringing. Just having an Owl book in this list, right? If it's an open deck tournament, the opponent's going to have to come in, right, worried about Owl Mind Maze. Like, they're going to have to worry about that. So, being able to come in with a different first 5, something like that, Strengthen, Butterfly, Frostback, Salamander, Druid, first 5 I talked about earlier, might throw them off their game a bit and, give you a nice advantage. So I think it's going to be some skill to pilot this, and there's some mind games in there, but I liked the list a lot when I was done with it. I had a couple questions, right? I was thinking, do I really want to get that 2/1 summon in here? I'm still not sold that Ancestor Spirit wouldn't be great instead of Salamander Monk, but I wanted to try Monk first because it's just so much value. And I really want to work Redirect in. I was kind of scared with just the 1 Charm die, but I do think it's probably doable. I mean, there's now with especially only 2 Druids. Sympathy Pain can use the Charm die, but also the Sympathy dice, so that's not really a big deal. But that's in my back of my mind too. As I test this deck, I'm going to try and, I'm thinking about that, right? Can I get Redirect in here? Do I need it in here? And also, do I want to go up to a 2nd Charm die to do stuff like threaten double Owl in the first round, or be able to start Owl and Druid together, those kind of things, right? And so that's a consideration as well. So at this point, I've got a list, and my next step is go test the deck, keep those questions in mind, see how the deck runs, and figure out if there's any changes we want to make after, right? See what we use, what we don't use, and see if we can change it up. So that's my build. That's kind of my thought process in building it. Now, I do have 1 recorded game that I tested, so I'll show you guys that now. All right, so here's the test game I played against Washo. Get right into it. My first 5, I went with the Mind Maze control first 5. 3-Eyed Owl, Mind Maze, Butterfly Monk, Strengthen, and Huntmaster. I can't use the Druid because I only have that 1 Charm die on the list. But I thought with Astria's ability being able to exhaust one of my guys, I'd want to put as many guys out on the board as I could and pressure him a little bit. So I thought that was a good way to go against Astria here. I start with the Owl Book and then meditate a little bit to get my dice up. He's got a lot of basics, so he's going to meditate first to get some of the dice where he wants. I see a Final Cry go by there. That's important for later. Something that I should have remembered. Always important to watch the cards your opponent meditates away. If you don't know their deck list, there's a Frostbite too, which, these early meditations and a Chant of Revenge, right, should have really clued me in that this deck had some burn in it. And you're going to see later in round 2 here how I don't think that through. But he goes ahead and plays the Bear Book. I'm not super threatened by that, so I just go ahead and throw the Owl down. Threatening to make him discard one of his cards. He responds by summoning a bear. He says, okay, if you're going to make me discard, I might hit you for 2 in the face. And he's going to also drop that Chant of Revenge. So trying to turn on some of this burn. I just Windmill Slam down Memory Drain. Right? I'm excited to make him discard that card. He throws away the Rising Horde, which he can always get back with the Ceremonial die. So not huge for him right now, if he has that built into his plan anyway. I go back to him. So not sure if I'm going to get hit here or what he's going to do. So no, he drops the Strengthen. So now he's threatening 4 damage to Fiona. And I'm going to consider playing the Huntmaster here on my next turn to try and discourage that, because I'm not so sure I want to take 4 to the Dome. We're starting with only 15 life so early in this game. Alright, back to me. I'm going to think about the Huntmaster. I don't want to take 4 damage. I actually get as far as going to pick my dice to play it, and then I back out of this at the end. I think I decide that if I put the Huntmaster down, he can just beguile it anyway. And if he does that, then I'm still stuck. The Panther Spirit can't block the bear. So I'm still stuck taking 4 damage if he really wants it. and I have an exhausted Huntmaster right away. So I kind of back off of that and just develop my spell board a little bit more and kind of accept the fact that I'm going to have to take that 4 damage if he wants to give it to me. Probably anytime this round. I only have 1 unit in my opening hand that can block a bear, and Beguile can just take that out. So I get down the Butterfly Monk, and now he drops Raptor Herder, and so now I'm in danger of taking 7, right? And that I can't have. So I've got to respond to this somehow. But I noticed that that's the last card in his hand. So, you know, between Owl and playing Chant of Revenge, he's kind of got his hand empty pretty quick. I noticed that, and I go ahead and throw Mind Maze on the bear here. And so knowing he doesn't have a bigger unit to put out, the bear is going to be the biggest target for Mind Maze anyway, and he has no more cards to discard to get rid of it. So I think Mind Maze is pretty good. It stops the big swing. He can still hit me for 3, but that's not a huge deal. And I pass back to him. Now, having that Ceremonial Power die, I should have noticed here, though, that he can't play the Rising Horde with what dice he has left. Right? If he Ceremonial recurs it back, he doesn't have enough dice to play it. So the only thing he can really do is pick it back up and discard it to get rid of Mind Maze. So it kind of hurts that eventually he's going to make that play, and I'm not going to get rid of this bear. But I guess I do get rid of the Rising Horde by doing that. Otherwise, or at least by using Owl and Mind Maze together, I'd take him off the Rising Horde in round 1. I mean, that's not terrible. And, I mean, with the dice he had left over here, I don't know that there's any way I was going to be able to get Mind Maze through, right? He has enough dice and has the recursion power available to deal with it. So he recurs the Rising Horde, passes main action because he can't take Mind Maze out in the first turn. I mean, I have the option to just pass here and make him lose the bear, right? But he spent so much more dice than me. I haven't developed Strengthen. I haven't developed my board. I still have Ingenuity to use. I can't pass. I can't pass and just to take a bear away from him here with only of spending 3 dice to his 8. I do think about it a little bit, but eventually, I know I have some time here. He's got to take a whole turn to get rid of Mind Maze. So I have time to develop Strengthen on my board, and I think I do that. I might summon a Butterfly. Let's see which way I go. Yeah, I get the Strengthen down. This way, whatever unit I put in play, I can, I have Strengthen available to use. And also, if I want to double activate it with Fiona here, I can. Although, this first 5 is built to draw me a card with Sympathy, which I've already done. I drew a Fester, and to play a second Butterfly Monk to get a bigger board state in round 1. That's my general plan, but I do have Strengthen available as well to use twice if I want. Not Owl, because I don't have any Charm dice. But there, he takes his turn to get rid of the Mind Maze. And I have a couple options right now. Really, all I have is Butterfly and Huntmaster. I'm not going to play the Fester because I don't have the dice. So my plan there is going to be discard the Fester to use Ingenuity. And probably get another Butterfly Monk. So I think right now I'm just deciding what I'm going to play out first. I get the Butterfly out first. Probably thinking I can Strengthen and then hit the bear. And I go ahead and use Ingenuity now and get the Butterfly book back. I do like Strengthen with Ingenuity. The problem is, a problem is that since they're both side actions, you can't unexhaust Strengthen and activate it in the same turn. So you kind of have to be careful about that. But I'm feeling a little bit behind on board. Although I know I have Huntmaster and another Butterfly coming, so I go ahead and take the Butterfly book back. But I think I probably should have went Huntmaster there first instead. Knowing he still had the Frog die up, and I haven't taken any damage anywhere yet to use the Butterfly heal ability on, I think I would have been better playing the Huntmaster, seeing if he spent the frog to kill the Panther Spirit, and then I get 2 butterflies out, and maybe I get use out of Mend if he gets some damage in first. That's probably a better line. But he goes ahead and swings the squad here. He wants to get the group tactics damage in, but he forgets Strengthen, which is, he's got nothing else to do this round. So I think that's probably just a lapse of memory on his part, forgetting to activate Strengthen there. Or, well, I guess not. He had to frog ping the butterfly, so he couldn't activate Strengthen, and maybe he's concerned that he's not going to get through if he waits another turn to do that. So I guess that's valid. But it hurts not to be able to use Strengthen here in the first round. But he is going to take the 5 damage when he can get it. He's just got to resolve his attacks here to keep it going. Fiona taking me to 10 life. He knows I have 15 life, so that getting a third of my life gone in that one attack is big for him. But it does leave him completely tapped out. So now I can just kind of respond with impunity. I play the Huntmaster after I meditate up the dice I need. Grab a couple frogs. A lot of times I'll meditate early in the round for everything, but I think it was kind of interesting here not to do that, to kind of hide the Huntmaster. It was 2 sympathy and 2 nature dice. It was kind of weird for me to be on there at the end. There wasn't a whole lot I could spend a nature and 2 sympathy on other than a Huntmaster, but it's still kind of weird to put me on it when I don't have any frog dice showing. But he's got to pass. I'm going to boost up the Panther Spirit with the Huntmaster's ability. I kind of wanted to strengthen and attack the bear to try and get rid of it. But if I do that, I realize I only have a Panther Spirit and a butterfly left, and I won't get to use both of the status tokens on the Huntmaster this round. And I kind of want to do that. I want to get the value out of it now when I know I can get it. So I take the 2 damage there on Astria. I'm going to bring out the butterfly. I'm going to get 2 more the same way. Again, through guidance. And you're going to see me, I think about Strengthen on the butterfly, again, to threaten the bear. But I know if I do that, I can't use guidance, and I'm going to get one less damage worth of value here. It turns out to be the right call, because you're going to see going into round 2 that my Huntmaster is not going to be able to be used. So I consider Strengthen, attacking the bear. You can see my mouse. I'm a visual guy, right? So I show myself everything. You can see me thinking that through, which way is better. I'm going to guidance, though, boost up the butterfly, and take the 2 on Astria. I'm not worried about taking out the hatchling or the herder just yet. Definitely not the herder. I don't want to turn on Chan Revenge. The hatchling was a possibility, though. But again, if I'm not really getting all the value, right, I only need 1 damage for that, not 2. But now with an attack of 4 from the strengthened Huntmaster, again, I think about the bear, but again, I'm kind of losing out, right? I only need 3 to kill the bear. I don't like losing that extra point of value, so I'm just going to take it all to Astria's face. I know that I have a lot of burn in the list to kind of pivot to that and try and take her remaining 10 life down with that burn, and this gets us to kind of even footing. Both of us 10 life left, both of us with 3 units, a 2-3, and he's got a 1-1 and a 2-1, and I've got a 0-2 and a 1-1, so kind of even on board, even on life, and as Fiona, I'm okay with that, knowing I've made up that life differential in the first round. So he gets to go first here. My hand is okay. Molten Gold, Sympathy Pain, obviously looking good to help out my burn pivot. Got the Essence Druid as well to kind of beef up my defense. Magic Siphon, don't really care about at this point. I'm thinking this game's been aggressive. I'm going to try and end it quickly. Hopefully in this round, if I can push to get through 5 damage somehow. That's all I really need, because I have 5 damage worth of burn in my hand. And I can try and draw cards here too. I have the Sympathy Power. I can use Ingenuity to draw if I want. If I want to try and draw and do another burn spell. I have all those options. So it's, Fiona can be flexible like that, and I like that about her. But we'll see how this round plays out. It does not play out that way. I believe he's going to go ahead and beguile my Huntmaster right off the bat here. just to take her right out of play, making me pretty happy that I went ahead and got rid of all those tokens in round 1. Had I carried some of those into round 2, Astria goes first, just exhausts her right out, and I lose all that, those extra damage, which could be big. So I think that was a good play on my part, but we'll see here as we go. So Astria Beguile takes out the Huntmaster, and he's got 6 basics on the dice here, so he's going to meditate up and go back to me. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and play the Essence Druid here in response, but first I'm going to meditate. Got this Magic Siphon in my hand that I know I don't need. So I know I can discard that and pick it right back up with my Druid when I summon her. I'm going to go ahead as well and get a couple more dice meditated up here. I'm on, Molten Gold Sympathy Pain plan, plus trying to push some more damage through, so I go ahead and meditate up to those dice. And my Monk I'm planning on summoning. Always good, by the way, if you have the Druid and there's ready spells in your deck, to meditate everything you need before you play the Druid, right? Because you're going to see in this instance, I meditate off a Frostback Bear book and decide I'd much rather have that than Magic Siphon. So even though I was planning on just picking up my Siphon back up, I can go ahead and take the Bear book now after I play that Druid. So that puts a tough to deal with threat on the board. And again, kind of gums up everything. I know I can throw some burn over the top, and if I can just squeak through some attack damage here, I might win in this round. Otherwise, I can go into next round. Even just playing burn spells and 1 Molten Gold can take it down for me if I can draw into that. So back to him, even on battlefield. He's only got 1 battlefield slot open still. So I can even look at going wider than him, right? And using that to get some damage in. Just to throw more attackers at him that he can block. Could also, frog ping the hatchling here and swing in, although I don't have enough to get any damage through. But keeping in mind that if I get a shot to do that, maybe I can get a frog ping and some extra damage in that way. He thinks through this for a little while and goes ahead and ceremonial powers back a Rising Horde. That Rising Horde he dropped in the first round. I probably should have realized right here that Horde with a full battlefield isn't great. I mean, I can frog ping it and just turn it into a Fallen right now. And he doesn't get the full value out of it. But instead, I'm going to strengthen the Butterfly and swing at the Bear. Now here I'm thinking, okay, I can take the Bear out right now. I get value out of the Butterfly with the heal if he counters it. If he doesn't, which he doesn't, he guards and takes the 3. Now the guard is gone, and I can attack his units, kind of at will, knowing that I have another use of Strengthen if I want it. Or that puts 3 damage through, so now I'm a lot closer, right? And he took a damage from the Ceremonial Recur, so I'm only 1 life away now. If I can get 1 more damage on Astria, my Molten Gold and Sympathy Pain can end the game. So I'm, furiously thinking right now, how do I push that last damage through this round? And he gives me a chance to do it here, and I completely blunder and miss it. So let's take a look. He strengthens the Horde and swings the squad, right? So he's probably thinking if I counter the Horde, then he gets his Fallen back, and he's still okay. But I'm going to go ahead and block the Horde with the Owl, which is completely right. So he can't get the Fallen out. But all I really need to do here is take this 5 damage and go to 10. 5 life left. Leave the Druid up, and I can just swing the Druid for 2 more next turn. He's completely tapped out. I have the Sympathy Pain, which is going to pop off right now to hit him for 2 more. And then Molten Gold on the next turn ends the game, and he's not going to get 5 damage in by then. So I have the shot right here to win. For some reason, I don't see that line. I'm going to go ahead and block the Hatchling with the Druid. I'm still just thinking like, okay, I can get ahead on board this way. I can find a way to push that last damage through, right? Just completely not thinking through the fact that I have a chance right here to get the damage through. But there's the Sympathy Pain. I fire that off. I hit Astria for 2. 4 life left to go. Back to me. I can put a Butterfly Monk out. protecting my life total and creating a blocker. That's my thought process anyway. Still leaves me the dice I need to Molten Gold. And I saw that River Scald go off on the meditation earlier. So that's in my mind too. I have the ceremonial die up that I can recur the Scald and use that as additional removal to get wider on board. But he goes with Fire Archer, and this is where I should have known from earlier, right? I watched him spin off Final Cry, I watched him spin off Chant of Revenge, I watched him spin off Frostbite, he's got Mark of the Goddess, all this burn, right? I should have been scared of the burn. And I don't see that here, right? He's got Final Cry dice up, and I'm going to go ahead and grab the River Scald, damaging myself in the process. To pick up the Scald, take out his Fire Archer, because I know then I can get wide enough on board to push damage through. That'll get me to Molten Gold range. That seems like a good plan, but I forget the fact that, not only does that give him the option to Final Cry, it also turns on Chant of Revenge, meaning he only needs 2 more damage to beat me, and he can get that lots of ways. But I bring out the Scald here in a second. I'm thinking through, saying, okay, haha, I can get all the way on board. He can't bring out 2 blockers. I can swing through for damage. Here's the Scald. I'm going to go ahead and discard my Fester to kill the Fire Archer. There it goes, and then he's going to react with Final Cry, which, because of the ping on the ceremonial die, takes me to I was at 10, takes me to 12 damage. He's got Chant turned on, so now he can just either, do something to get 2 through, or just Molten Gold ends the game. And I think it is Molten Gold, or no, it's Mark. Maybe it's Mark of the Goddess. No, it's a Meditate. Meditate's Mark of the Goddess. I know what's coming. He gets the 2 frogs and goes ahead and drops the Molten Gold to end the game. So Washo comes out with the win. I think I could have had it if I had seen that Essence Druid, attack line. I just straight missed it. But he played well. I do think, he might have been able to find a way to use Strengthen in the first round that could have helped him. And maybe look at that swing through there. I think he missed probably 2 that I could just put the Essence Druid through, and then I guess he doesn't. It's hard to put me on Sympathy Pain and Molten Gold, not knowing my deck list, but well played by him. And but I think the deck performed well. I think it was the pilot here and not the deck that did this. But happy with the performance of it. So let's jump back and see what changes I made after I did all my test matches. So obviously you guys saw that game. I lost it. I should have won. I think I think the deck was fine. Obviously I made a pretty big play error there in the end, and I could have pulled that out. But that was the only game this deck lost in testing. I won the other 3 I played. I beat No Debt, I beat an Airedale, and I beat a Leo deck with these. All 3 of which were, I thought, pretty solid decks against here, and Fiona performed pretty well in those matchups. So I was a fan of this. One thing I will say, though, is the mill pivot probably isn't necessary, or at least not in this capacity, right? With just 15 life, even with the Butterfly Monks, you got to play quick. Fiona needs to get the game over quickly. It's tough for her to outlast, long enough for mill to really be a factor, I think. And even though we have Owl and Mind Maze, I mean, she's milling herself with Ingenuity. So it's kind of tough to play that game, I thought. I like Salamander Monk. I don't want to switch that for Ancestor Spirit, but I do think Redirect would have been beneficial. So the only change I made from this list so far is going down to 1 Magic Siphon. I still want to have the option of it, right? But I don't think it's necessary. And I went ahead and grabbed 2 Redirect. I still haven't gone all the way to I still haven't gone all the way to double charm. I think that's something I need to consider. Shared Sorrow is probably the next card on the chopping block. If I were to go to double charm, I might I'd cut a Sympathy die and the Shared Sorrows, and maybe go up to 3 Essence Druid, and look at some other charm options. I don't know, Golden Veil's a possibility, or maybe just a 3rd Druid. But some things I thought about. So anyway, that's it. I hope you guys liked the first episode of the Deck Dojo. I'm going to try and do these often. Like I said, I love building decks, so I've got a lot of ideas and want to share them with you. So, leave a like, comment, let me know what you want to see or what you thought of it. And if you try the deck out, get back to me and let me know. Thanks, guys. We'll see you next time.